Recording in progress.
Alrighty, starting off with our roll call. Turn my mic on. We got Martha Majeski, Daniel Jouin, myself, John Callahan, and then from the township we have Lori Getz and Valentina Mitterer. I hope I said your name right.
You did.
And then Mike Crotty, and then our township engineer on the very end, Paul.
Don't we have Bob Cooney on?
And then, I'm sorry, and then Bob Cooney on the line as well. Yes, thank you. So I'd also like to announce that we had an executive session today to talk about some personnel matters. And then moving on to our
Litigation.
and then litigation as well. Yes, potential litigation. Great. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to make a motion to accept the minutes of the Board of Supervisors dated January 23rd, 2025, our regular business meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Moving on to treasurer's report. Consideration or a motion to consider the acceptance of the treasurer's report for a period ending January 31st, 2024. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Lori, any discussion?
Yes, treasurer's report for a period ending January 31st, 2025. We had a general fund balance of just slightly over 4.8 million. We're down about $200,000 over last month, which is the almost exact amount of our expenses from the general fund last month, so that makes perfect sense. We are right in line for where I would expect us to be this year. Real estate tax bills don't go out until March 1st, so we won't see that start rolling in until later on.
Great. Discussion for anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. I'll make a motion to approve the disbursements dated February 10th, 2025. Lori, anything you'd like to?
I'll second.
Oh, yes, thank you.
It's okay.
All of the bills have been reviewed and are recommended for payment.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Alrighty, moving on to the meat of our stuff for this evening. First up, we have a discussion of a PASD waiver of land development. So I'm going to make a motion that,
If you want to let Paul
yeah.
give the intro first.
All right.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Thank you, John. Yeah, so the Phoenixville Area School District is looking for a waiver of land development. They did appear before the Planning Commission this summer where they discussed their sketch plan. The applicant is, as you're aware, was here for the conditional use at the most recent Board of Supervisors workshop meeting, which was approved. And they're looking to demolish an existing building that's in decay and replace it with a new big garage that will service their equipment so it doesn't have to be transported to a school district. I believe it was Upper Perkiomen, which is a distance away. They have submitted a sketch plan, and they did submit a application for a subdivision, or excuse me, a stormwater management and grading permit application. I don't have any objections based off of looking at the sketch plan, what the school district is looking for. So I would support a waiver of land development contingent that they get the stormwater management and grading permit from the township.
And I just wanted to make a comment that I will not be voting on this, as I happen to work for the developer.
All right. Is there anybody from PASD tonight who would like to come up and speak about this? Alrighty. No problem. We heard from you last time. It's all the same thing we went through last time. No problem at all. All right. I will make a motion to accept the waiver of land development. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion from anyone? All right. All in favor?
Well, do we have to let public discuss?
Aye.
Yes, any public comment? Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Can you tell I'm new at this?
Doing great.
Great. All right, on to our next one. So this one is regard to 200 Kibberton Road, and I'll pass it back to Paul.
So this is for an existing Rite Aid that the applicant is looking to refurbish into a car wash. The 200 Kipperton Road, the subject property, is situated almost entirely in Phoenixville Borough. There is about a 500 square foot portion that's within Schuylkill Township, and the applicant did come to the Planning Commission meeting recently after providing a sketch plan. We had offered some comments about some concerns about stormwater management. The applicant's engineer supplied the township with a stormwater management report, which was in line with the assertions that there was going to be no negative impact to Schuylkill Township. So we did issue a secondary letter dated February 4th, 2025, where we have no concerns about what's being proposed. We just simply ask that as the project progresses through the development process with Phoenixville Borough, that we're kept in the loop and know what's going on in case there's any changes to the small area in Schuylkill Township. So I have no objection to the letter of no interest that is being requested by the applicant.
Is anyone here from 200 Kibberton Road who would like to speak on this? Come on up.
My name is Kester Kelly.
If you could speak into the microphone. It's for the Zoom call, not for us.
Okay.
You can turn it around if you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Kester Kelly. I'm with BL Companies. I'm civil engineer on the project here on behalf of the applicant. Appreciate, Paul did a great summary of where we're at. I'm here to answer any questions you guys have. Also, there's one outstanding item that we need resolution or direction on, is if Schuylkill Township wants to sign the land development plans or not. We've checked with Chester County Recorder of Deeds. They don't require it, but we are happy to comply with whatever the direction is. Just want it to be understood tonight, so depending on whatever your vote is, if you do want to sign it, we're kind of, clarifying for that when that comes upon, when the time is appropriate. We are going in front of the Borough Planning Commission Thursday evening for our third Planning Commission agenda. I am very optimistic that we will be getting a recommendation for approval. So at this point, we really don't anticipate any changes to the plans, and definitely not within Schuylkill Township.
Does anyone know if we signed off on the land development plans when it became a Rite Aid?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. We could research
Do we
that.
need to?
So we don't need to, and
Okay.
I did speak with their attorney, and the main reason why townships have to sign is because the Chester County Recorder of Deeds won't let the plans be recorded unless the municipalities sign. But they're apparently comfortable enough that they don't need our signature. Since we're not approving anything, I'd rather we not sign. And other than what's noted in our letter of no interest, in that it is no land development in the township, you're gonna pass all the stormwater plans by the township engineer and not otherwise direct additional stormwater toward us.
Okay.
I think that's your answer then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you much. All right, with that, I will make a motion that we will sign a letter of no interest for the 200 Kibberton Road property. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to come and make a comment about this in particular? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No problem. Have a good night. Next up, we have Delaware Valley Paving, 335 Paulings Road. They are seeking relief for a number of zoning ordinances. Paul, if you want to run through these as well.
Certainly. So, thank you. I pulled a bill.
Mine's so close.
Okay. So this is for 335 Paulings Road. This is for Del Val Paving. And this project was discussed in the Planning Commission meeting in July of 2024. This is the parcel of land that Delaware Valley Paving owns that is back in the back of the property, close to the compost and recycle yard of Schuylkill Township. It's by the railroad cars and things like that. The applicant is basically looking to expand their structure that's there, demolish it and build a new one. There's several variances that they are looking to have. And the way that the discussion went in July of this year is we suggested that they revise their land development plans, resubmit, which they did, so that in September we were able to give them a more updated letter. There was a lot of zoning questions. With that, they are requesting the eight variances for this project. Now, it should be noted that this project is wedged in between three total parcels, two of which are owned by the PA Lines LLC, which is basically the Norfolk Railroad, and the other side of it is the Valley Forge Sewer Authority. We did make it clear to Delaware Valley Paving that in the course of their land development process that they're going to have to be able to provide leases and agreements to us to understand that they're going to be able to still utilize those lands. The relief that they are requesting, these eight variances, they are all contingent simply on their property. They are not accounting for taking any of the lands from either Valley Forge Sewer Authority or the Pennsylvania Lines. These variances are just simply to build the building, and then they're going to go move forward to work on the lease agreements. As far as the 8 of the variances that are listed here, I can go into them in detail, but I don't have any issues with this. This is a very uniquely sized parcel. It's a very challenging parcel, and to do what they're looking to do to expand, these are variances that I do think that are in line with what they're trying to do. I don't think that they're doing anything that's negative to that area. So it would be my suggestion to the Board of Supervisors to remain neutral to the zoning hearing board, but I'm happy to go through any of these variances that you would like to in any greater detail.
I'm not quite sure how to ask this question. Do any of these variances no, if we grant these variances and they go to Norfolk Southern or they go to the Sewer Authority and say, look, the township told us we could do this, but now we can't do what we want to do unless we have an agreement with you. Are they going to hold this against, I don't want to say against us, but use this in a way to get something from someone else? Does that make sense? Am I asking my question right?
Yes, I do understand
Okay.
what you're saying. So if these variances are granted by the zoning hearing board, I believe it would be, would there be a negative impact or like a forcing of Valley Forge Sewer or the Pennsylvania Lines?
Right.
That is not the situation. They would still have to get the leases. I mean, the expansion of the building and the circulation, because it's going to be used for truck repairs, truck storage, material supply, they're going to need these lease agreements. So right now that they are looking to secure the ability to build the structure that they want to build, and then they will go forth and try to make their agreements with the Pennsylvania Lines and the Valley Forge Sewer Authority.
I'm just curious, because I've never seen this property personally, being that it's where it's located. It has a crossing over the Norfolk Southern lines, or how is it accessed? I'm looking at the map and I still can't quite figure it out.
It accesses off of Paulings Road, and it
Okay.
just kind of runs right along. If you're familiar with
Yes.
that, there's the big white house, and then you go up a little further, and on the right-hand side is the Valley Forge
Yes.
Sewer Authority, and it's just kind of a windy little path, and then eventually it comes to for lack of anything else, a fork in the road. The one side goes over to the Schuylkill Township compost recycling yard, and if you more likely, or more or less stay straight, you go into the Del Val property. So they, right now, they have, they presently have agreements with both Pennsylvania Lines and Valley Forge Sewer Authority.
Okay.
We're just asking that for updated lease agreements and that they're in agreement with this. So the improvements that they are proposing, the other property owners, entities are aware of this, and they will allow that for the leased land.
Okay.
Great. Any further?
anything?
We just have to, either, if we want to oppose, we would send Mike to oppose it, so he would.
I think, my opinion, I think we should just remain neutral. Let it happen, or not.
I'm also inclined to remain neutral and allow the zoning hearing board to make its determination, not take a position against.
Bob, any comment on this?
No, I think I'm on the same page as Danielle and Laurie, or Danielle and Martha.
Okay.
Great. Is there anyone from Delaware Valley Paving that wants to come speak, expand on any of this?
My name is Ronald Jackson. I'm with Wilkinson Design Group, the engineer for the project. I'm really not here to give a presentation. I'm just here in case you have any questions. I don't want to influence your decision in any way. So, just
Fair enough.
You're doing a good job of reading the room.
Yeah, yes. Great. We don't have to make a motion for, no, right, okay, great, okay.
I mean, do we have to, want to provide any opportunity for public comment?
Oh, yeah, but, yeah, I just want to ask about the motion, yeah. And with that, anyone from the public who would like to talk about this at all? Great. Alrighty, moving on to old business. So up next, we've got a discussion on the municipal complex renovation. Laura, if you'd like to kick that off, and I believe we have our friend from Alloy 5 here.
Yes, we do. James is here to give us some updated information on our renovation project. So he's gonna go through the presentation. We have a couple of items that we need some feedback and action on. I'll wait until he's done passing this out, but just a couple of things that you'll see specifically on the agenda. We have a proposal to do a scoping survey of our plumbing, just to get a sense for what the condition of it is. That's just next step in our process here.
So, Lori, I'm sorry, I feel a bit sorry for Bob, because, does he have it electronically?
It is in the workspace. I just
didn't
put
see
it in
it.
this afternoon, I just put it in.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm good with it, Martha. I can see it.
You can see it?
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think you can we?
All right, guys, I lost you. Can you hear me okay? There you are. All right. Lost signal for a second.
Hey, Bob, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We probably can't hear him because the TV's off.
Right.
I can hear you okay, yeah.
Bob,
I can hear you
Bob,
through
can you
my
hear-
phone. I can, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, thank you. So I'm gonna disconnect just for a second and try to put a laptop into the play here. I wanna see if you can still hear us presenting, so stand by one moment.
Bob, can you hear us?
Yes.
I have one.
I'm hearing you guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. I'm a walker, so are we good to go?
Yep.
Okay, everybody. So I'm James Margata from Alloy 5, the architect working on the municipal complex renovation. Was here 2 months ago, right before Christmas, to give an update. If you turn to, I'll just give a little recap of that December meeting. In December, we had come to the board to discuss some of the things that we were learning as we were moving through the design process, and the boardroom was one of those big important things. And at the time of the feasibility study, we had presented some upgrades to the boardroom. So the feasibility study was done in November of 2023, I believe it concluded. So as part of that, we had some upgrades to the boardroom. As we were moving through the design process, we learned that the boardroom was kind of like a little bit higher of a priority because we wanted to enhance this room. So as part of that, we proposed what we were calling a bid alternate at that time, which just means we were going to document everything that was in the feasibility study, but we would also document an alternate enlarged meeting room. And we had proposed this 650 square foot addition only on one floor. This room would essentially remain the same. The structure that you see above us, glue lamp structure, is it's kind of like an integral piece that all works together. So at that time, we were not proposing any modifications to that. We were just proposing to sort of expand out. And we presented layouts at that point, and the outcome of that meeting was that wasn't quite the direction that we wanted to move in. I think we wanted to see more gains because that plan didn't quite have the gains that we needed in terms of seating and kind of atmosphere and just overall back to the township. So at that meeting we left with the intent to explore demolishing this piece of the building and adding a proper sized meeting room and proper shaped, not this very intricate octagon. So over the last 2 months, we did explore that. So you'll start on the kind of second or third page. We did we're starting with the outside. So everything on the left of the rear of the kind of tower that you see is you've already seen before. That's all the sort of feasibility study things. On the right is the demolished and reformed meeting room.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but for the people that are in the audience, are we able to put the presentation? That's what we were trying to do. Yeah. We can't put it on the screen?
They're working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 2 extra.
Would any of you guys like to see this?
Who's that? Oh, correct. Yep. Okay. We would need these back after. Yep.
So don't take pictures and post them on Facebook. I know how you are, John. I know what you can be like, dude.
Okay. Sure. So, oh, there it is. Yep. So, yep. Kind of like this one and the next one. Okay, so again, from the left of the kind of vertical piece that's existing, that's all sort of you've seen before, but that's the full renovation of the current admin and police floors. And then there's a necessary addition that was the outcome of the feasibility study where we learned that things were very undersized for what the capacities needed. On the right is this sort of reformatted meeting room as the exploration that we were intended to do after the last meeting. Now, because we aren't officially approved to proceed, we just did enough to sort of show you a few things and get your direction on them. So if you move to the next slide, this would be the front view. Really just trying to make the building not feel like, to put it simply, a house, a residential building, but also retain that charm of the, it is sort of a municipal building, so we didn't want to go too far into commercial glass box land. So I think we balanced just enough of that kind of residential construction feel, but also enough to make it feel like this is a destination and that your township is going to. I think it flares it up a little bit. So if you go to the next page, you'll see the floor plan of that. So on the upper floor, it's about an 1,800 square foot room, which is different than what we have now. But part of that is the demolition of this space. We fit 108 chairs. So again, quite a bit of an upsize from this room, which is about 55. The caucus room, so you'll be, that was a big pro of the expanded meeting room, is not having to leave this room proper to go into the admin suite to caucus. So that's also located in the meeting room, and then a decent sized storage room, a proper dais showing 11 seats, and then a presentation for 2 people. This space does include enlargement to the police department. So if you go to the next page, you'll sort of see.
What page number are you on now? I'm sorry.
Sheet number 2, Bob. Or it says board update 2 on the upper right corner.
Yeah, I got that. What page on the left?
It's it's a plan with blue background. The interior of the plan is blue.
It's page 7.
Got it.
In the top left.
Yeah, maybe next time
Page numbers, definitely.
Page 7. Okay, I'm on it.
So just, I won't staple there next time. Sure. So this space for this addition does include a large space for the police department, which is on the lower level. We did keep so if you imagine directly under this building, or this structure, this shape, this octagonal shape, there is foundation wall. So that economically should remain. We are punching through in some intentional spots. Right now we just have one kind of punch through for some added space. If this is approved, we will develop it further with the police department. So it is on both levels, it would be incorporated into the programming. So we'll jump back to this, but we always like to do an update just to show you that we are working towards something here. We have many meetings with Lori and Valentina and the whole team, so appreciate everyone's input from all departments. At the last meeting, you saw these, and they were white, so we start populating finishes and colors based on the kind of reactions that we get from the stakeholders in this. So we're trying to just keep a clean palette with some accents, the Schuylkill Township green in the logo. That was kind of our jumping point, so you'll see this kind of accented green throughout the design. So we usually run through a typical office. This would be a typical office space. The next page is the admin touchdown space. So this would be outside of the slide 9, outside of the admin offices. This is in the part that's approved. This is in the part that's been approved and we've been working on. Just a touchdown space for plan review and any sort of informal meetings. We are accenting the ceiling a little bit with a wood kind of slatted ceiling, and you'll see that move throughout all of these. Just wanted to kind of give it a little flair there and a little definition. Some light fixtures there for some focused task lighting, and again the green accent floor. If you move to the next one,
Does that provide any sound proofing?
there's acoustic panel kind of built of the upper layer there.
Okay.
So that's part of we're trying to define that space and create a place to go there. You could come out of your offices, if that makes sense. Just a copier alcove here, nothing too crazy, but you could see a full glass door into the conference room, admin conference room there on the left, followed by some storage, a workspace, and a generous space for a multifunction copier on the right. If you move to the next. So now we start getting into, this would be the caucus room. So again, we're trying to keep simple, clean palette, but accent where we can. This would be a accessed by the board of supervisors, and you know we wanted to. We don't usually specify wavy light fixtures, but that would be something that could come or go. But we liked the idea of it sort of flowing with the room. If you want to go to the next one. So we'll jump back to the meeting room again. This is the sort of exploration from the last meeting. So like I said, there's a sizable amount of seats. We fit 108 seats. We have a properly sized dais and an area for presentations. We did have to include windows in this. I know from the last few meetings that the glass in this room is kind of a concern from a security standpoint. So just to make the building, if it is sort of a go ahead, we wanted to not add as much glass, but there needs to be kind of a few just to make the building look like a whole building across all departments. So you'll see kind of 3 punched opening windows in that room. And this is kind of a teaser of what the inside could look like. Like I said, we don't like that full wall glass, so but kind of the glass getting natural light in is important. So we're proposing kind of light to come in from above for the safety factor, and also the room kind of builds itself around a center aisle based on the seating arrangement. So kind of all is working together. You can go to the next slide. This is the police squad area. Just an update. We kind of carried that acoustic language from upstairs, downstairs, not only on the ceiling here, but on the walls. Good amount of seating and central area for touchdown, and then a presentation wall with adequate TV and presentation equipment. Now the fun part.
Okay.
Chief, you've seen this before tonight? No. No, this is the first time. Can we give Chief a copy of the paper copy, please?
He has seen it. This is a new 3D rendering.
This
but
is a new
he has seen and approved the layout.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he has the plans. I've seen the plans, definitely. We want to move to the next slide. All right, so the fun part, and again, I emphasize underline bold letter probable cost. These are all the probable costs we've provided to you thus far. So moving from left to right, as the sort of scope changed, the first one all the way to the left we'll refer to as the feasibility study. And that includes the outcome of the feasibility study. So that was a full renovation of the admin department and the police department and one addition. That was the 2,300 square foot addition split up between 2 floors. The historic building at that point was included. It was a $372,000 renovation cost to bring that up to speed. And then the roads department, $700,000 for a new kind of pole barn or whatever. At that time it was an addition. So for additional storage and storage of their vehicles. At that time, the construction costs with the soft costs and contingencies was about 5.3 million. Moving to the right, we're going to call this the previous board meeting, and this is the one that I was at, that we presented the bid alternate. And the bid alternate, again, didn't really receive the best review because it was kind of addressing some of the things, but there were still, it didn't seem like the juice was worth the squeeze, for lack of a better term. So that was about 5.6 million. That included all the same things: the historic building, the roads department, and the construction costs and the contingency. Now, this new one, the plans that you've just reviewed today, that includes full renovation, same thing, of the 2 floors, the first addition that you've approved, and then this current meeting room and the enlarged space to the police. Took the historic building out. That was an outcome of the last meeting. Redistribute our efforts architecturally. So our fees, we had allotted time for three pieces. We had spoken that if the historic building was not really involved anymore, we can just reallocate our design time into this new piece if that's approved. The structural, there is an additional cost for structural because there was no structural at the historic building. So that you will see that at the end. That the biggest change, this final number is about 7.4 million. So you increased a good amount from the 2 that you've seen before. Now, I'm sure you're thinking like, oh, he's throwing in there all these bells and whistles. I think we provided you an adequate sized meeting room with like a deserved conference room or caucus room and storage. Really, I wouldn't go any smaller. If you're going to go smaller, kind of, if you say, take 20 seats out or take this off, then I think you may not get what you want. You're going to end up spending close to that anyway. So this is kind of the meeting room as it lays out. I can't recommend shrinking it. Like, we use a term called trimming the fat. A lot of times it's, can we take like 10 square feet off, or can we shrink it a little bit? Of course you could. That's not my decision to make, but we really didn't provide over the top with too much. So if you move to the next slide.
Can I ask,
First we could
I was
pause
gonna
there,
s- yeah.
because
Yeah,
this
can
is
I
going to
go
be a
back?
long.
Yeah, that's a,
yeah, can I ask, on slide 15, I understand there were increases for the administration and police building. What's the reason for the $35,000 increase in the roads department building?
So, good question. So when we laid out the costs originally in 2023, we had included an escalation clause that every year we estimate construction costs to go up about 5% based on the time, the bid year that you do. So for the 2024 estimate, we didn't increase that cost. Here we are now in 2025. We want to just prepare you for that increase in cost if the project goes out to bid this year. And you'll see there's 2025, 2026, 2027. So we just like to be kind of ahead of that as things change, as construction costs go up or maybe even down, but we're not really seeing that yet. We do project 5% increases at this time per year. So each of those numbers from the second column to the third column, that was present from the start increased 5%.
So some of the cost in the, it's not quite $2 million, is due to that 5% increase that we're seeing between
Yep.
columns 2 and 3 for new construction?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yep.
What's the reason for the increase in soft costs? Is that just,
We do like to just keep that consistent with everything else. A lot of times, like building permits, you would all know, sometimes it goes by percentage of the as the building gets larger. That, like I said, our fee architecturally and mechanically, electrically, plumbing is not increasing. But we do have a $10,000 increase for structural, since there was no structural services planned for the historic building. So that's kind of what that increase is, that captures that. The contingency, that's something we include because
I'm sorry, it went up $200,000. So you're saying, so it's just,
there's a lot of associated land development. You guys all, the costs that
Okay.
kind of come with that. That soft cost isn't just design fees, it's multiple other things.
We can probably you could send us a greater breakdown of what's
Of course, yeah.
going into the soft costs.
Yep.
I don't know how anybody else feels, but this was kind of what I had envisioned in my mind after our discussion in December. If you look at where's the one with page 6?
it's so much more functional. I mean, no offense, but when we were here in December,
Yeah.
was it December or November? December
I'll
meeting?
let- yeah.
It made me question why we're doing the project if we're not gonna get more functionality out of this room, because this is the part of the building that the public sees the most.
Correct.
So we wanna make sure that it's an asset to people. When we have a very popular topic, it's very tight in here, and I think it actually discourages people from attending. This is also a polling place for elections, and people who vote in this district know that they're out the door, sometimes in very cold weather. So I think that this definitely, I agree with Martha, this is definitely makes it worthwhile to do the project. I would obviously have liked to see a smaller increase in costs, but but in terms of the design, it's what I was hoping to see too.
So along those lines, Danielle, and I guess I'll ask the engineers, how much more staging area will there be for, say, a voting day or election day where people are lined up out the door? Would they then be in the lobby? There's not much more lobby that I see there, I guess is what I'm asking.
No, they would actually be Bob, I think they could actually be in the meeting room.
Can they? Because right now, I think they're, well, I don't know, do they allow that you can come in while all the machines are full, or do they make you wait at the door? How does that work?
No, because I know, because I was a poll watcher for District, what's the one that votes in the Schuylkill Elementary? Is that 2? And you can be partially in the building. It just depends on how far away you are from the polls. Actually, in District 2, they did it in a strange way this year, but more typically people start queuing up in the hallway of going into the gym. So in an ideal circumstance, people wouldn't be waiting outside.
And at Cat Pickering, nobody waits outside. Everybody's inside.
You've got a long hallway there to right
No,
to,
it's right in the
back people up,
vestibule.
don't
It's a big room, probably no bigger than the meeting room here, right? Maybe a little bigger. But we're only in that front portion of it. We don't go to the other side.
okay. I'm just wondering if that would address that issue or not. I don't
Yeah,
don't know what the rules
I
are
think it would
of,
be fine.
polling.
I think it's a little hard to see because the drawings that we have in front of us don't have an overlay of the existing building, so it's a little hard to see how much additional room we have in comparison to what we have here. But I think it's a lot.
Yeah.
James, offhand, do you know the square footage of the room currently? Or Lori or Paul, if you happen to know that.
I think on this drawing, it's showing 102 feet of lobby, and then underneath it says 197. Is that what it was and what it will be?
Yeah, that is the room capacity. That's the increased capacity.
The
which
current square footage is 900 square feet, 902 square feet of this room. And the proposed, as this plan on the screen,
It's 14,747.
14,747.
60% bigger. And
So
a
you're saying,
rectangle instead of
you're
an
saying
octagon.
part of that could be used for staging on a polling, voting day.
Yeah, I think that it's really up to the judge of elections, and if the judge of elections wants everybody to stand outside, then let them stand outside. It's really up to the judge of elections.
And we're not don't get me
Oh,
wrong,
yeah.
we're not designing
Designing
for
around
that,
one- around
right? We're
one-
not designing for
one.
our primaries and when I looked at this, I thought, oh, this would be nice if people didn't have to wait out in the cold for an hour.
Yeah, it's an important consideration, but
Yeah.
not everything you want to
So
design
I
for.
think we need to talk about the math of it, guys, financially, what does this do, to our budget and, tax? Do we have what we need to do this? And if not, I list the priorities out as the efficiency of our employees, the staff for the roads, the police, the admin, having everything up to standards. This one, to me, is a luxury. That I get it, that it's the place that people see the most that come in, but the biggest meetings that we've had have all been based around a development that's now behind us. There's other times, I'm sure, where we're gonna have, large groups, hopefully a lot less than what we used to, but I just don't know if it's worth millions of dollars for those few nights that we need more seats. Looks better, that's great, but if what we have is working and we're, I guess a lot of it comes down to the budget. What can we afford? What makes sense? Where do we cut it off? Do we fill the needs list? And then look at the wants list if we have enough. I think we're hitting the needs well with the plan that we've laid out so far. I like it. I think everybody's going to be in a current building with all the codes met and, be comfortable and not struggling like we are now. But this one, to me, goes more into the wants side than needs.
Can you remind me with the prior plan, we didn't have a separate caucus room?
No.
Okay.
In the bid alternate, we were getting a little bit of additional space in this room, but sharing a conference room with the admin.
I'm just curious, Chief, with that additional room that you'd have downstairs, because of the potential expansion of this room, have you thought of what use you might make of that?
Yeah, well, as part of this process.
I don't know, can you pass Chief the microphone just to make sure that it can get on the,
As part of this process, we've been trying to shoehorn what we need downstairs with the available space. This would make it much easier to do and much more functional. If that's the answer.
yeah, so, I mean, that, right now, it's just kind of shown at, I don't know if you're able to move it to. Is it the next slide? So you see that flex space.
Right.
Have you thought,
We haven't got that far yet because this wasn't approved, so we didn't
Okay.
design it with it based in mind.
okay, but you have thoughts of what
Yeah,
you might,
absolutely.
Are you willing
Well,
to share
I mean,
those thoughts?
the arrangement, I would have, training area that we cut out totally because we didn't have space for it.
So
would
that could
would
be a potential training
Yes,
area?
would be one use of it.
Okay. To Bob's question, which is a very legitimate question, right, about how do we pay for this? Lori, do you have thoughts? I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I have the same, my eyes were,
So were
opened
mine.
up pretty wide when I saw the jump. I was
Yeah.
thinking it would be $1 million, I didn't think it was gonna be, was it 1.5?
Yeah, yeah,
So-
agreed, and you do have to, the costs we're comparing to 2023 numbers, which we talked about really, so you have to add that in, so. But yeah, it's a big cost. We just had a meeting last week. We're still seeking our RACP funding that we're on the list for. So we're hoping to get a significant amount of grant money. But yeah, we will have to come up with a plan to pay for the project. Obviously, that's our next step, but we need to get a little bit further along so we can apply for the grants with the plans first.
Based on other townships or municipalities that have done building renovations, are there any projections that either of you can make as to funding sources and our likelihood for funding for this project, given the increased costs? And I ask you only because, Ally, I'm asking, Bob can't see who I'm gesticulating towards, but I'm asking Ally Five because you have experience in grant writing, I believe. It was one of
Yes.
your
Yep.
skill sets.
Yeah, that's all. I know that a lot of our municipal clients do get RACP funding. Off the top of my head, I've seen it be anywhere from 500,000 to 5 million in this.
Yeah. So we
Seen
have a
10
line
million in the
item.
rare. Yeah.
We have an approved line item for 1.25, I think, and we just had a meeting last week, and Randy was on, and we were discussing trying to get, we can ask for additional RACP money as well to try to get our line item increased, but we are already on the list. Now is the time that we start knocking on the doors of our elected officials to get that money released to us. But there are other grant opportunities too that Paul, T&M keeps an eye on for us and is going to help us to apply for. But there will be an element of this that we will need to put a full financial plan together for it. We just haven't quite reached the point where we have a number to be able to do that with yet.
I hate even asking this question, but with some of the freezing of funds in Washington, do we have any thought of reduced funding for this project? Are these state allocated grant funds or are these federal allocated grant funds?
RACP is a state allocated grant fund. That's the big one.
Yes. Yeah, we,
But we don't know whether the state funding's gonna be
Comes
affected by
from- yeah.
federal funding.
mhm.
We don't know. Is it better for planning perspectives now to put it all in and we can pare it back later in terms of going out and getting grant funding? I mean, if we go out and get grant funding for 7 million, that's wonderful. If we go out and get 5 million, isn't it easier to say, okay, well, we wanna trim this off, trim that off, and have it all on paper and know what we're trimming?
Yeah, that was sort of the logic behind the bid alternate, was to proceed with a plan that we call base bid. That would be, in this case, a more conservative option, and then document the bid alternate just so you could see a line item. You know, this comes, when the numbers come back, it's 4.9 million, but that additional meeting room is 2 million or whatever our projected cost is. So that's sort of why a lot of times we do bid alternates, because a lot of clients like to see that a la carte sort of number. And yeah, that's correct. You know, you really can't get into the full application of a RACP thing without seeing like some sort of, you know, this is definitely a great start to send to them. We've seen like this level of probable cost that starts the conversations, but they're going to want to see like a recommended contractor's number. So I like to say, like, you're not approving the cost to build, you're approving the drawings to explore that to get you that number.
So you're saying we can apply for a grant, exploring the top option with the chance to go back if we needed to, if our funding doesn't come through as we hope?
Yeah,
Is that
so-
what I'm hearing?
So our experience with this is our plans typically and our probable costs in these presentations as a whole, really the feasibility study could have been a good book, but we've sort of developed beyond that. That could have been like the starting point to the discussions. There was a probable cost in there, and that's enough to start to get the conversation starting around, increasing that line item that you already have. I don't know the fine-tooth details of the line item you already have, but I know some of it was around sustainability. So that is all kind of, it can be rewritten, but I know they probably want to see that we're hitting those initiatives that are listed in there before they increase substantially.
Right. So I guess the question is, and why we wanted to do this again, to make sure that we get the feedback to go in the right direction, is the feedback from the last presentation when we had it as the bid alternate, and we weren't at this level of design on that bid alternate. So it can be designed as a bid alternate, but the conversation really was, if we're gonna do this project, we need to maximize the functionality of the public meeting room. That's why we explored, all right, let's make that the base bid. I suppose it could be done that we make that the bid alternate. It just makes it a little bit more challenging from
The documentation of it, yeah. So
yeah.
I forget exactly what we had said for that bid alternate, but I think that mechanical may have an additional fee for that if they have to design twice,
Right.
2 scenarios.
And that's why we went this way, to try to get the best use out of the room with also not having to have them design multiple scenarios that we're paying.
And that's what we said
Multiple
at the end
times.
of that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and again, I know this more than I was hoping it would be, but I think this is better functionality. It sounds like it will provide a training room for the police department. It's a better space for public meetings.
Room to grow.
Yeah, I think that in the long run, I don't think we'll be disappointed that we decided to do it. If we're going to do this project, we should do it once and be happy with the result.
That's generally what I was gonna say too. I know this building's 20 years old now. The idea, more than that? Okay. Oh, 28 years old. So I would hope with where our township is at this point, with the amount of residents and build out we have, we redesign this building once and that fits forever. Like, we don't have to rebuild and tear down again. Don't like the cost. I'm with Bob and Danielle on that,
Yeah.
but
And no, I don't want to, it's easy 2020 or it's easy in hindsight to make criticisms, and I'm not trying to do that. But I think some of the problems we're dealing with was a lack of anticipation of growth and functionality that we need in the future.
yeah.
And you also have to remember that that was the old township building. And when they moved into this, it was, Nick, tell me, how much bigger is this space compared to that? This is like a palace. Yes. So I think going from this to, what is it, page 6? From what we have here, going to page 6 is going to be like going to a palace, like going from there to here.
Don't use the word palace. Bob is cringing right now.
Oh, I absolutely am. And I go back to, it's good to have what you need. And we have a duty to be mindful of taxes and the cost to the township, the taxpayers. And I'd want to see that boiled down. What does this look like 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now with our tax base the way it is? Are we going to force a tax increase with this kind of spending? And, are we asking for more than we really need? That's, I always have to ask myself that question. Is it a need or is it a want? Are we going to have we haven't had really development for over 20 years. So we haven't, since this building was built, we haven't had a ton. Most of it was done prior or right around the time when the building was going up. We had a surge there in the 90s, but I just have to be able to justify it. If it's something that we really need, we got to do it. If it's a code issue, if it's security, if it's whatever it is, health and safety, if it's being able to be efficient and have a good place to draw good people onto our team, and have it be up to today's standards, we got to do it. But that meeting room just doesn't get nearly the use as everything else. The roads need what they need, the police. And I look at the police station, and I know that the training would be nice. We've got a big area there with shared cubicles, and I don't know how much, if there's room to move anything around in there. I noticed the more I travel into office spaces now, it's a communal cubicle where you don't have everybody have their own spot when they come in. You all share a spot, and we're adding in things here that I think are already top shelf. And I don't want to have people come up to us and say you had a tax increase because you went and built a palace. We have a need, absolutely. We got to hit it. But I think there's a place where you draw the line, and I'd want to see what impact this will have on our expenses, our budget, and can we afford it, or are we going to have a tax increase? I'd want to have an answer to that question.
So Bob, I guess I hear exactly what you're saying, but if you look at page 6, where would you draw the line to say it's no longer a want, that it's what we need?
Let me get to page 6. Hold on one second.
It's the one with the meeting room in it.
I think he's saying he would have gone with the proposal we discussed in December.
Yeah, I would have stuck with the original proposal. I think it's
Oh,
good to
okay.
explore the cost of expanding the meeting room. Everything else that I've seen so far is justifiable. The meeting room, I think, is excessive.
That's generally where I came down when I first looked at this as well, especially given the costs. But given Chief's previous comment about how it sounds like you're still a little bit crammed in there with the new design, the fact that they'll get some mileage out of it, I think, is what's tipping me over to the other side. Because generally I'm in agreement with you. Having this room completely filled twice a year does not justify millions of dollars in spending. But if it's a gain for the police department, I think we can consider that a double dip, if anything.
Again, I'd like to see what the impact's going to be with the budget. And I think we need to look deeper into that before we say, let's go down this road.
But we
I
can't
think we need to do go ahead.
We can't do that, though. We can't move forward with getting our grants until we have, I think that what I'm understanding is the next step is we have to give direction to Alloy 5 as to what is our preferred design, so that we can then get pricing from contractors to then apply for grants. So I think we have to make a decision tonight as to which direction we want to give them. With
So if we
some
go down
things
that
being
road, are
unknowable
we
right
locked
now.
in? If we go down that road, are we locked in? Are we spending money? Or is there a way ahead of time to say, here's our best, medium, and worst case with grants, and look at that?
I mean, and again, I'm not the expert here, but we could go with the lower cost proposal that we looked at in December, apply for grants and get $2 million, or we could go with this one and potentially get $5 million, right? I mean, we don't know what grants we're gonna get based on the proposal that we're going to be submitting, right? It doesn't mean because we submit a lower cost proposal that we're gonna necessarily get more grant funding or a bigger proportion of our total cost in grant funding.
Is the decision point tonight, though, what's the additional cost for Alloy 5 to change the design to reflect this, which can then be potentially scaled down later? Or is it one or the other, like all or one?
So,
Well,
first of
what I
all,
was asking is if you went for the high water mark and you didn't like what you got with the grants that are committed to us, can we then look at it and say, hey, you know, this is going to be more out of the pocket than we can handle, and back down, or do you have to then go back and return grant money? How does that work? If we scaled it down after finding out what we're eligible for,
okay, so
and is that doable? Can we, you know, are we wasting money and time? I don't know.
first, yeah, this isn't locking you into anything. This, you know, for a contractor and a project to proceed, once we have those numbers back, even outside of granting, we need board approval to move forward. It's not, you're not locked in. Yes, there would be, you know, if at that time that number is something higher, then again, I'm, you know, in doing this 10 years now, everyone kind of at that number says is gawking at that. You could make some changes then. The extent of those changes, I can't fully speak to if that would solicit additional costs from us at this time. You know, we've been working pretty well together for 2 years now, so we want to continue to maintain that relationship even through construction. So I can't speak to that right now, but yeah, we would need any board approval. You would have to have your grants, everything all on the line to move forward. Secondly, a little bit more about the RACP. It's a two-step process. So you're allotted from the state a line item that gives you the maximum amount of money that they can give you, and that's usually an outcome of a plan, an initiative, or a feasibility study, which is kind of where we're going, or, you know, sending them an updated version of that to see hopefully we can increase that existing line item or have a second line item. So I don't know if that 100% answers your question, but yeah, RACP, the big one, is usually a two-phase thing. So they'll give you an allotment of what the maximum is, and then based on those follow-up numbers and the follow-up conversations that happen, you're either allotted a full allotment or a quarter, 3/4, however it rolls out.
So where we're
Okay,
at
I'm
tonight
not
with the,
getting a real clear picture on it. So I guess I'm wondering is if we gave the base and an add-on and said, hey, we're looking at, I'm just going to use $5 and $7 million. We're looking at this without a boardroom improvement, and we submitted that with. We'd also like you to look at it this way with an updated or upgraded boardroom. Would that come back with two different potential grant numbers, or how does that work when you put the application in?
I think it's really apples and oranges, because it's going to depend, Bob, on what grants you get and what funding sources you get. I think the key is if we look at one of the the third to the last page, I think the key thing to consider is how much is it going to cost for us to have them design the 7.4 million estimate, which would be an additional $10,000.
Correct.
And I imagine once we get to a later point as to us deciding based on the construction costs that come in or the grants that are out there, because I've been doing this a lot. Most grant funders are pretty flexible if you're taking less. So it'd be the cost then to kind of scale it back. But 10,000 over a $7.4 million project is kind of
Okay.
tiny. It probably makes more sense to get the.
So say we go in with what we want, right? And it's, and we get $0 for grant funding. We can, first of all, nobody's obligating us to do any of this, right? So we could just say, stop.
Could shelf it.
We could all be voted out, and then the new people who get voted in don't want to do anything, and then it stops. So there's no obligation to move forward at any point. If we see that we get $3 of grant funding, and we say that's not enough, we could scale back the project at that point. It will just be additional design cost to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. If there's no risk that we're going down a road and we can't turn back, and we have the option if the grant money doesn't come through to pare it back or kill it, I'm fine with that. But I would I think when that happens, once we see what grant money's available, that's when the next phase hits of, all right, what's the impact going to be, to the residents? What's the benefit and what's their cost?
I hear you, Bob. We all have to look our neighbors in the eye and make sure that we feel comfortable spending their money.
Well, this really went sour. I'm going back, Martha, you might remember it, was 15 years ago, when we were looking at some large numbers, and when it hit the street, it exploded, and the whole thing got shut down.
That was
there's
13 million, and that was completely flattening this place and starting from scratch.
Wow.
right. So if when everyone's looking at these numbers and what we're going to do, we have to be able to justify it and say these are needs. We're not getting crazy, and it's a much smaller number than what it was years ago, and the money's not worth what it was years ago either. So take the time value of money into consideration. That it's more palatable, is what I'm saying. I don't want to have it blow up and have a lot of backlash for going too far.
So what you're asking for tonight is for the additional design.
How is the motion structured?
Now, we do need feedback on another piece, but we can either continue.
And there's the rest of the presentation.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I just want to understand how the motion's, so, okay.
And it would be for the 10,000.
It's just for the $10,000.
Okay, so what we have to vote on for that aspect is whether we're gonna approve the other $10,000 for the design services. Okay. Do you wanna continue your presentation?
Sure.
Okay.
So the next item, which we've been talking about for months. So when we started this project, it was made aware to us that the township has an interest in electrification and sustainability, and there was an initiative shared with us that was done, I want to say, in 2019, about moving forward, like a path towards electrification. So as part of this project, in the feasibility study, we identified maybe the need for electric vehicle charging. Now, we will get into kind of how many, how much, how blah, blah, blah. But first, when you're talking about electrical vehicle charging, we sort of have to understand this is a complex topic that I think even the engineers, when they talk, they can't even communicate it correctly. So I tried to really make this visually and digestible. So to understand this, there's three things you have to understand: is the electrical service coming from kind of the utility lines to your building, the number of chargers and type of chargers, and then the generator backup, if any. So the generators, if the power goes down in this building, is there a backup to that? So this first slide identifies what I'm calling is existing electrical. So to your building currently, you have a 600 amp, which means how wide the so if you imagine wires, for lack of a better term, come in your building, how thick that wire is. And that wire, the rating of that is 600 amps. That's a diameter of how much electricity is moving in that to your building. Volt, 208 volt, that's the pressure that's being pushed. So depending on the size of your building, you might need to upgrade that pressure to be pushed back and forth over your building. And then three-phase service is pretty standard these days. That just means you have your three wires, red, neutral, and black. So that doesn't really change per these scenarios. But so electrical service is done in this area by PECO. And PECO typically does one upgrade for free or as complimentary, because you'll be bringing them additional business. So if you are upgrading your electrical service, if you're doing it, and you want to use that complimentary upgrade, one time is free. The additional times is usually at a cost. So you have a generator here. Moving on to what your existing setup is, there's a 20 to 25-year-old generator here. Typical lifespans of generators and all mechanical equipment now is 20 years. And that's because manufacturers stop making replacement parts after things are about 20 years old. So that's why The next slide, we are recommending that even just with outside of the EV charging discussion, the generator has to be relocated based on the first edition. So we are recommending that that be replaced with a like-size generator, 125 kilowatts. So that's kind of a measure of how big the generator is and what it can service. The current generator is certain things about the connection to the building are not to code. So the current code states that if the building goes down in an event where there's no power, the life safety items have to be on a different switch or circuit than everything else in the building. So everything kind of egress, emergency lighting, all emergency services have to be on that. It's called a transfer switch. Right now, the current generator, everything powers back on immediately versus just the life safety critical items. So that is a current code that has been changed since the generator was installed here. And you currently now have one EV charger, right? And it's for township use only, and it is not backed up to the generator. Did I summarize that? Okay. We're all on the same page. So I'm laying out now 4 paths for moving forward, and these paths involve different numbers of EV chargers, different electrical services, and different generator sizes. So if you wanted to keep the current number of EV chargers, just one total number. This is kind of the, without any additional EV chargers. Like I said, we are recommending to replace that generator, 150 kilowatts for additional capacity. And then that is usually powered by diesel or propane. Your current generator is powered by propane. Diesel at this point is decently cheaper. So for a 150 kilowatt generator, the power that fuels that is diesel or propane, or there's a few other options. The diesel cost is about probable cost, $80,000 versus continuing with what you currently have. Propane, you would have to upsize a tad to $125,000 propane generator. So as part of just the out of the gate electrical service, we are upgrading to 800 amp. So that's kind of like not addressing any additional electric vehicle chargers. If you go to the next page, this is path 2. So the total EV chargers would be 3. So you have one existing and you would be adding 2. Where those are, I'm not kind of saying, I'm just giving you sort of the general outlook on it. The generator would remain the same for that. If those 2 EV chargers were not backed up to the generator remains the same, and the electrical service remains the same for that option. So that's an addition of 2 EV charging stations. You can move to the next one. Okay. Kind of trying to illustrate a jump here. So at 10 EV chargers, 10 total, you are upgrading your electrical service to 1200 amps. So your electrical service would be upgraded. The generator still remains the same if those 10 EV chargers are not backed up to the generator. So again, backing up to the generator provides 24/7 power, 24/7 operation. If you go to the next slide, this path 4 shows, sorry, the EV chargers is on the right there. For some reason, the electrical service is on the left. This would be 10 level 2 EV chargers. 5 would be backed up to the generator. 5 would not be backed up to the generator. At that point, you have to upsize your generator from 150 kilowatts to 300 kilowatts. And that probable cost gets pretty expensive also. That generator does grow. Those probable costs need to be updated for that. But that generator is quite large to have those. I think it might be in here. Yeah, okay, so the path 4 summary, the diesel for that would be 130,000. Propane for that size generator is 175,000. And we wanted to include, based on some of the other townships we're working with, they like the dual fuel generators, which means you're not totally reliant on diesel or propane. It kind of has if the diesel delivery isn't there, you have a backup with propane. So dual fuel is actually the most expensive option. So I just spoke a lot, and I hope it was semi-easy to follow. The thing that we would hope for directive on would which path to proceed with. There are, at the 1200 amp, so at path 3, the electrical room that's in the building will have to have some changes to it. Based on that amount of electricity coming in the building, you have to have 2 ways out of that. Currently, anything under 1200 amps does not. I think that was the only kind of other thing I needed to touch on. So there's 4 paths here. Really, the thing that changes is the amount of EVs, the electrical service, and how many you want backed up to the generator, if any. Questions?
So, these are level 2 chargers.
Correct.
Okay, which are, I have one in my house, it's relatively inexpensive. So when we're looking at these costs, these are pretty much all-in costs?
No, these are just the generator
Just
costs.
generator
Just
costs.
generator.
So is there, like, I'm looking at slide 21, where I'm seeing path 1, 2, 3, 4.
Correct.
If I want to compare these, like, the total cost for each of these options, is there a way for me to do that?
Yeah, so typically level 2 chargers we see are about 3,000 to 5,000 each just for install and purchase product. I don't know if that's your experience, but
No, but, yeah, that's really expensive. Is that because of, that seems expensive. For a
Is that
Really?
installation as well?
that 3 to 5 number includes the installation part of the labor and materials.
Okay, is that because,
It doesn't look, it's not similar to ones that when you plug in at your home, it's a whole station. Mhm.
oh, okay.
So it's for use outside of the house. So it's like what you see at Wawa, things like that. Some of those are the fast chargers, but it still will look the same. It will just be a level 2.
Okay, because there are exterior stations that you
Correct,
need,
yes.
so you need excavation for the lines to go
Yeah.
underground,
Mhm.
and, okay,
Depending on where they are, like if they're right next to where your electrical service is, then it's not a lot of connection. But if it's, across the parking lot or down in the other side of the building, then you have to account for that distance.
So I just want to make a comment that we had a conversation at the Regional Planning Commission the other day, and East Pikeland has an electric vehicle charger. Since they started, they are not seeing a wholesale adoption of the use of that charger. Like, they're not seeing the public really using that charger since they started charging money for it. We've also seen, so I have an electric car, and I am very in favor of doing things to encourage the use of electric vehicles, but I don't see our township building being a hub for charging. So I just want to throw that out there, that Phoenixville Borough is also seeing electric chargers being put at parking spots, and people aren't necessarily using them for the parking spots. They're actually paying for the electric charging and then just parking their regular cars there. I personally have an electric vehicle. I don't charge my electric vehicle at a parking spot. I charge it at my house. So this is, our township building is not a destination where people are typically traveling hundreds of miles and need a place to refuel. So I think that for our own township vehicles, it's good to have one. If
Right.
the police department would want one for, if the police department would want one for its cyber trucks, no, please no, please no. Please, no, please, they're so ugly. But again, so I'm looking at this path 4, and I'm just saying, who is ever gonna use 10 electric vehicle stations at our building? I mean, it might be nice, but I just don't, even if everyone was fully electric, I just don't think that will be a utilized resource. And I know that people in our township who advise us on, that would probably wanna,
And the background on
Come get me now,
that
but-
being, it was included and presented to be explored as an option because it was a recommendation that was in the Clean Energy Transition Plan that when they were hired to do the feasibility study, that was a directive given to them to incorporate some of the recommendations from that plan. So that's why it's included for you to consider. But it will require the most number of upgrades and changes and.
and I mean, it seems like between path 1 and path 2 gets us, a significant increase in chargers, at similar cost. I know you said that for each it's like $3,000, or 3 to 5. but that's not a lot of
Depending on
money.
how and where you wanna set it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Where they're put.
I don't know, those
It-
are just my initial thoughts.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but really, what that gets us, that allows us the setup. If we wanted to just reinstall one, we will be set up for the other
Yeah,
two.
You can, if the infrastructure and the important part there is that the service or the service update
Yeah.
is done and the infrastructure is there, you can install the EV chargers
Just one.
at any time.
And then add,
Thinking path one, and I've thought. I'm thinking path one, and I'm sorry that you had to go through 2, 3, and 4 for me. But I think just because of that, where you can add more later, if that's
path,
what you wanna
path
do.
one does not allow,
No, path one would be just to maintain the existing and
path two would allow for up to 3. Path one would be
Oh,
just
I'm
one.
sorry. Okay, I misunderstood what you said then. Then path 2.
I'm in favor of path two also, and it sounds like, you know, yes, we will have to pay for I mean, propane is much cleaner
Cleaner,
burning than
yeah.
diesel, I would much prefer, and
That's
that,
something we can also seek grant funding.
yeah, that we,
specifically
I would much
for.
prefer that we go with propane than,
Mhm.
than diesel, but it sounds like we need to replace, most likely we're gonna need to replace our generator anyway, and so this is a cost that we'd be incurring anyway.
yes.
Bob, do you have
So-
thoughts? Do we wanna make sure, is Bob still on the line?
No, I'm on the path 2 line too. I mean, looking at it, it just makes sense. I almost don't want to encourage people to come in and use us as a facility for charging unless it's an emergency. It's good to have it, but I wouldn't want it to be the go-to spot, to have a lot more traffic coming in and out and the potential for issues. So with the cost in mind especially, I think path 2 covers the needs.
So for path two, is there a significant cost increase to down the line wire up the EV chargers to
What-
the generator? Is that something that's better to do now or something we can add on in
That-
15 years?
That's part of it. So the generator, you're only gonna size the generator once, logically, like,
Mhm.
if that's something that in 10 to 15 years is in the future, that's kind of why we've been talking about it so much, because if that's part of the forecast, then it might be important to consider now, because financially, of course you can do it, but it would kind of be like redoing things at a higher cost than that you would be doing now.
But how many times have we lose power in this building where,
That's why I'm asking future 10, 15 years when we might have critical vehicles that are EV. That's not a short-term thing. This is down the line when they're actually stable. So
Yeah.
that's my thought process.
okay.
And I mean, it's probably gonna be 10 years minimum, if not 15 or 20 at that point. We're looking at a new generator anyway, so.
Yeah, as you get to that, closer to that 20-year mark, now generator manufacturers that's their kind of limit on replacement parts. So you can still find them. I'm not saying you can't find them, but it's not from, the train or the manufacturer that it made it.
So on the amperage rating, is there any reason we don't just jump to 1100 or something that just because it's free, doesn't require a mechanical room upgrade unless we hit 1200? Any reason we stop at 800 and not just take the free upgrade as high as we can take it?
You would have more so based on the size of this building and the size of the layout, the 2 additions that we did and everything else on this building, 1100 would be, and you're not doing the kind of EV upgrades that we talked about, you would have an overabundance of electricity service to your building.
Is there a downside to that?
No, but you can definitely upgrade, but that would be kind of like an overkill from a service standpoint to you. I'm not even sure Pico they would have to review that and sort of make that decision with you. So as part of this, part of this whole process, the engineers will submit load calculations for everything here, everything that's decided on, EV chargers, light fixtures, all the things, and then that goes into their final calculations that they would review with Pico as part of their electrical upgrade. So you might get a number, let's just use round numbers, you might get, 675 amps total at a max loading capacity. So they always do have sort of a factor of safety in there. So you go up, 125 amps in that case, but they're not going to want to just provide you extra utility and conduit, because with that increase, the service gets bigger, the labor gets more intensive. So I can't speak to that if they would approve that.
All right, fair enough.
Sorry.
Okay, so path two.
Have to.
Path two, and then I think we hit all the slides, just not in, unless, did you want to hit on the timeline?
Yeah, so, is there one more, so the direction on the other one, right, the prior discussion, there should be a summary slide on that also. So we're proceeding with 3, just, for now, we're proceeding with the design of 3.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Okay, so then we could go to the timeline. So we're sort of in this kind of red, pink, maroon phase, or I'm sorry, yeah, maroon, purple design development. So based on that, we will need probably 2 weeks to finish the documentation of that. Now we'll have, it's pretty much all done for that side of the building, but now that we have direction on this, we need about two-ish weeks to complete that. And then we would move into construction documents, which is about another 2-month process where we are meeting with you less. We're documenting, so we would probably go to like a 2-week, every 2 weeks. We're kind of putting pen to paper and working with all of our consultants, Paul and our structural, electrical, everyone, to get those bid documents ready to be put out to bid. So we're projecting that to be ending around the end of April. And then we allot usually 5 weeks for bid time. So at that, this is kind of best case scenario, at that early June date, you may have numbers from a contractor.
Are we required to do prevailing wage?
Yes.
Okay.
So the action items that we need at this point would be, we need a motion to,
We need to go over that first. Yeah, I don't think James has talked about it.
the 10,000 design
The
fee?
the first bullet point.
Oh, the scoping, the plumbing scoping.
The plumbing scoping. Yeah, if you could
Yep.
just touch on that for a minute.
Sure. So, because we did get existing drawings from this building, there were no plumbing drawings that were part of that. So, as part of that, a contractor would have to do it during construction anyway, but we're hoping to get ahead of that and understand what your plumbing setup is currently like. So, plumbing scoping is basically taking a camera and looking through all of your pipes that service your sanitary and your water service to your building, seeing if anything has any problems, confirming that they have suspicions about where things are based on the layouts of bathrooms and things, but seeing like, that sprinkler that's right there kind of goes through this wall and then down to the sprinkler room in a certain way. So that's the plumbing scoping proposal.
We should know where our pipes are in this building anyway. I mean, we just know where they are.
Like I said, they have suspicions, but
Great to know that when something leaks, that we'll have a suspicion about where the pipes are.
And they'll also be specifically looking at the state of our
Correct.
septic as well.
that's one thing I missed. So yeah, the septic, the connection from the building to the septic field out in the back by the gazebo will be evaluated. And any other sort of kind of maintenance or evaluation of how the current pipes and all the infrastructure stands today.
All the things that could cause us significant issues later. And based on the issues that we have with the mechanical systems in this building, I would love to know ahead of time. So those are the only 2 items that we need an actual vote on is the approval of the plumbing proposal and the approval of the additional design services.
Yes.
2 separate.
Yeah, separate motions. So we'll start with the easy one. I'm going to make a motion to approve the plumbing proposal from Integrity Mechanical Incorporated for a scope of existing municipal building underground sanitary plumbing systems, in the amount of $5,160. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to talk about this? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then next up, I'll make a motion to approve LO5's proposal for design services in the amount of $10,000. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And to clarify, this is the bigger plan with the bigger meeting room that we were talking about. Again, any public comment about this? Yeah, come on up. Name and address, you know the drill.
Good evening, John Moran, Schuylkill Township. Yes, I heard the pros and cons for both ways of going with this whole project. And I can remember the old building down the street here. And yes, I'm concerned about taxes, but at the same time, where in the township does the community come for any township community events? You either have a fire company hall, one of the grade schools, or one of the schools here. And this room here, as you can see, not a lot of people tonight, but other times there have been a good amount of people crowded into space. During elections, as Martha mentioned, at the tech school, you have a larger space, and it's much more conducive to voting. And I understand with this space here, it doesn't take many people to fill the space for voting. So yes, a larger reception area would be great. I'm concerned about the taxes, but to understand that if you have to make a decision between $2 million or $5 million or $7 million at this time, it might be beneficial for the town, for the townships. So I'm in agreement that you should spend the extra $10,000 as a taxpayer to see which is the best for the township people. Thank you.
All right, thank you much. Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you much,
Thanks,
James.
James.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, James.
Next up, we have Chief to come talk to us about some staffing stuff. I almost said concerns, and I didn't want to put a negative spin on it. It's not bad things.
Yeah, what we're asking for is to hire another part-time officer. Generally, we carry two. One of the two is now a full-time officer, so I'm looking for approval to hire a second part-time officer, but some are coming up on vacations and trying to get people time off.
Guys, I can't hear. I don't know if he's on the microphone. If you can-
Chief, I don't think your microphone's on.
I'm sorry.
Did it die?
Uh-oh.
There we go. Is that better?
I think so.
Can you hear him, Bob?
Absolutely, much better.
Okay,
Okay,
great, thank
sorry
you.
about that. I didn't know
All
he turned
good.
it off. Yeah, traditionally, we've been trying to carry two part-time officers. One of the part-time officers became full-time, so now I have one. And it's very tough to cover the gaps in the schedule with vacations, time off, and all the things that come along with it. So I'm just looking to hire another part-time officer.
And this is within budget?
Yeah, it doesn't affect budget. The budget reflects how many hours of work, not how many officers you
Right.
have.
Right. Okay.
And I believe you said this, but this was to backfill basically
Yes.
full-time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Do we need to make a motion on this, or?
No, you'll officially approve it when he brings a candidate forward that
okay.
he has made an offer to, but no.
Excellent.
Good luck.
Yeah. Alrighty, on to new business. I'm going to make a motion to approve the Delaware Valley Trust proposal or property and liability proposal. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Alright, Lori, is this something you want to touch on?
Yeah, I can cover that. So this is the Delaware Valley Trust. We are already a member of two of the three trusts. So we're in the Workers' Comp Trust and we are in the Health Trust. We switched to the Health Trust, you'll remember at the beginning of 2024 for all of our employee health benefits. So we've actually applied a couple of times to get into the third trust, being the Property and Liability Trust, and it just, for one reason or another, hasn't come to fruition. We did get a proposal this year that's very competitive with our current coverage, and I feel confident that the benefits that we will get from switching to this program and being in all three trusts will be highly beneficial to the township. We did get a proposal from our prior carrier that has insured the township for quite a while, and they are competitive. But the Delaware Valley Trust, we get a lot of benefits from being in all three trusts.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Alrighty, next up, I'll make a motion to advertise the bid for 2025 to 2026 equipment rental and snow removal contract. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, do we have
Aye.
public comment?
Oh, yeah,
Do you wanna comment, Nick?
Alrighty, next up, a motion to approval of RNS Sweeping Company LLC proposal for street sweeping not to exceed $6,000. I will add that this is a budgeted item. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Public comment? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll make a motion for the approval of street striping proposal from Guidemark Incorporated in the amount of $4,368. Again, this is a budgeted item. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion to approve Little's quote for John Deere mower in the amount of $17,167.64. Again, a budgeted item. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion for approval of Urban Henry Equipment Incorporated quote for Kabuto repair in the amount of $7,881.50. Again, budgeted. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion,
What is a Kabuto?
tractor.
It's a Kubota. It's a tractor. It's for a new clutch and tractor.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I had no idea what a Kubota was. What it, what is it?
Kubota.
Kubota. I had no idea.
It's when they put the yellow tail on top of the eel in a sushi roll.
Okay.
Any public comment? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion for approval of annual accreditation management service renewal with Lexipol in the amount of $13,781.25. Again, a budgeted item. And Lexipol provides the police accreditation management services. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, public comment? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion for appointing Earl Cram to the Environmental Advisory Council effective February 10th, 2025 as a voting member for a term to expire December 31st, 2022. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I will just chime in and add that we, this was part of our new process for appointing committee and commission members. And we had the interview with Earl a week or two ago.
Wednesday.
Yeah, last week, well, maybe, time flies. It was a great conversation. You learn a lot of things about our long-standing members that you wouldn't otherwise know, so it's,
Obviously, it went well.
it went well.
Yeah.
It went well, yeah.
I am happy he is coming back. Any further discussion? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so next up, there is a misprint on the agenda. So first thing I'll have is a motion to amend the agenda to reflect that Chief Fitzsimmons is seeking approval to attend the FBI National Academy Eastern PA Chapter Conference. So this is different from Lieutenant Bryant McCarthy as it's currently stated on the agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So, for number 9 and
Martha.
number 10
Martha,
on our,
Mike?
oh, sorry. For number 9 and number 10 on our agenda, are these budgeted items?
Yes.
Okay. You had it marked on all the others, but not this one, not these two.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Public comment? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, with our agenda amended, I'll now make a motion to authorize Chief Fitzsimmons to attend the FBI National Academy Eastern PA 2025 Chapter Conference, June 1st through 3rd, 2025, in Gettysburg, PA, with overnight accommodations if requested. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion on this specifically? Public comment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ten is still correct, though, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion for Lieutenant Bryant McCarthy to attend the PA Law Enforcement Accreditation Training Conference, March 31st to April 2nd, 2025 in Harrisburg, PA, again with overnight accommodations if requested. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Again, this is a budgeted item. Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, next up is a motion for approval of agreement for evaluation services from Indian Valley Appraisal Company in the amount of $3,750 for 930 Valley Forge Road. Do I hear a second?
Second. Second.
And I'll clarify, this work is to update a previously completed appraisal in order to qualify for federal funding opportunities, which is why it's being done a second time. Any discussion on this? All right, public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, a motion to ratify the approval of yield analysis conducted by T&M Associates in an amount to not exceed $4,000 for open space parcel R. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, you can take credit for it.
Blame the lag. Any discussion on this? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And a motion to consider approval of proposal from Signature Properties Group to winterize cottage house at 926 Valley Forge Road in the amount of not to exceed $2,000. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Alrighty, so that is new business wrapped up. Moving on, we have a pair of resolutions to go through. So first up is a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-10, authorizing Schuylkill Township to participate in the Delaware Valley Property and Liability Trust. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And then a motion for adoption of Resolution 2025-11, record destruction. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Lori, do you want to touch on this?
Yes, I will just add, this is an update to the one that we pass annually at the reorg meeting. We've been working on digitizing our records, and this is just the next step in that. This allows us to shred the documents that we've been given, or that we will be given permission by PHMC to maintain digitally.
Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Alrighty, and moving on to 2-minute reports. We'll start at the end as usual with Martha.
The Historical Commission did not meet this month, so I have nothing to report on that. I did get an email from Patty Lynn from the Chester County Solid Waste Authority. She's having a managers meeting to talk about textile recycling, and she has asked me to kind of give a little bit of a presentation. So with the board's approval, I'd like to do this because we've done this, and Patty wants to use Schuylkill Township as a pilot program for the county. And if you guys don't object, I'd like to go.
You're just talking about how it went for us,
Yeah.
specifically like logistics and
Yeah.
outcomes.
Mhm.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
You'll be our ambassador.
Oh, okay.
Textile
Do it up.
ambassador.
Okay, and that's it.
So I attended the Phoenixville Regional Planning Committee this month. It was on January 29th. We held it in person, which is unusual for us. We hold most of our meetings virtually. It was held here in Schuylkill Township. I think it was a really great meeting. Andrew Jacobs was here. He was also in attendance. It was, I think that having the in-person meetings really helps in facilitating conversation. We will be holding our next in-person meeting 9/24. Lori and Valentina, if I could ask you to check to make sure that this room is available. So we're going from one in-person meeting a year to 2 in-person meetings a year. We're gonna shoot for 3 next year. We have to just convince some of our brethren at other townships of the merits of that. And we went through our objectives for the year and what we wanted to work on. It was basically largely a meeting on our 2025 work plan. Some of the topics we discussed is how to coordinate better on grant applications, use of open space, lessons learned on open space. I don't want to say open space development, but utilizing open space. Phoenixville Borough, for example, recently went through sort of a project where they scoped the development of a pocket park for one of the parking lots that's on Bridge Street. And there's I think things that we can learn from each other on how this process goes. We talked about increasing work on trails and seeing opportunities for ordinance changes to encourage maybe accessory structures, considering the need for low-income housing in our communities, and I thought it was a very positive meeting. So, anything to add, Andrew? No?
No, I would say, the work plan is gonna be fluid for the Regional Planning Commission, largely setting.
I'm sorry. I invited you to speak. and
Andrew
it was
Jacob from
It was a
the-
trap.
Yes.
Because you have no microphone.
Okay, Andrew Jacob. I'm a member of our Schuylkill Planning Commission, live in 54 Flintlock Lane, and happy to be here. Yes, it's going to be fluid for the Planning Commission. Second quarter, we do have our agenda set, but the third and fourth quarter, we want to be able to adapt to any of the changing needs of the communities. But it was a very good meeting, as Danielle had said. A lot of positive things, and the overall sentiment was more collaboration this year between the townships on what works and doesn't work, and learning from each other's mistakes as well as our wins.
I also sat in on the Environmental Advisory Council. Sorry, between committees, commissions, and councils. And it was also a really great meeting. It was chaired by Charles, and he did a great job. One of the things they talked about was potential cleanup of a parcel that I didn't even realize Aqua Pennsylvania owns, which is at the intersection of Pothouse Road and Whitehorse, and how there's a lot of invasive vines there that they want to clear out. There was also some discussion about potentially increasing the scope to the area right behind the township building here for that. And that was a large topic of conversation. I'm trying to think, what else did...
They are requesting what we approved for their budget, because none of us remembered.
Yeah, we couldn't remember I thought it was basically the same thing that they got last year, but they wanted to have an accounting of what their budget is this year. Okay. Thanks, Martha, I forgot about that.
I did too.
Yeah. So, but it was a really good meeting, and there are 2 new members of the council. There's Ann Lincoln, who's my neighbor, and then April, I think Gordy. She was not in attendance, but Ann was there, and it was a good meeting.
Awesome. All right, Lori, if you want to jump in next. I have nothing because EAC was mine, and I was not there.
What about Bob?
Yeah, Bob, that would be good.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Bob.
no problem. Everything's going well. A lot of outreach going on with the Open Space Commission. Some good progress. As you know, appraisals are being done right now, and that's about it.
Perfect. All right, now if you would like to take it, Lori.
Just one quick thing, we got a lot of calls last week. Our residents probably saw lots of detour signs cropping up around the township. We were getting a ton of calls. After a lot of phone calls on our part and trying to figure out who was doing the work and who was putting the signs up, because it was not us, it's Aqua. Aqua's doing a large water main replacement project, yes. So by now, most people probably know, but it's at the intersection of 23 and 252 that's closed. So lots of detour signs. We didn't do it. If they're somewhere they don't belong, like on your private property, call us. We can help point you in the right direction, but it was contractors for Aqua that put out the detour signs,
So to be
as
clear,
approved by PennDOT.
so to be clear, if they are on private property, but they're within the township right-of-way,
That would be a different scenario,
okay,
They're allowed to be there.
yes.
Yep.
okay. They're not like squarely in the middle of someone's front yard.
Driveway,
Yes.
for example,
Okay.
yeah.
Did that happen?
Yes, it did.
That's awful.
Has the work started yet?
Yes, today. It's,
Oh, it started today? And
I don't know if
is,
the work physically started today, but as of today, it was closed.
okay, so is the road closed from like 9 to
9 to
3,
3.
or is it 24
9 to
hours?
3.
Okay,
9 to
okay.
Yep. But we're not in charge of it, that's what I'm saying.
As I responded to one of my neighbors, it said, why is that there? It said PennDOT Road, so you probably called PennDOT.
Cool. We'll hand it off to Paul next.
Great, thank you. Just an update for the sidewalk plan. We did the submission in early January, and on PennDOT gave us a letter on dated February 5th based off the review. So we were able to get through a bunch of the comments, the design comments. Of course, there's a couple more that are still available for us to go through and revise the plans. And Lori, Valentina, and I have a meeting scheduled this week to go through a couple of these comments, because I think as far as the township is concerned, we can give a little pushback on some of these different items that they're asking for, you know, just to keep costs more in line for the township.
Great. Chief, you'd like to come up and give a quick report?
Yes, nothing remarkable crime-wise. We've had a fair amount of activity, but nothing way out of the ordinary. We did have one of our police vehicles that was struck while parked off the road, handling a domestic situation. Repairs are underway. Shouldn't be an issue. It's not even close to being totaled, so we'll be fine, but we'll be down a vehicle for a little bit.
The officer hurt?
There was no one in the vehicle.
Oh,
Yeah. It struck the back of the truck and then pushed the truck into one of our other cars, but that had a push bumper on it, so it didn't damage that car.
Wow.
It was a mess,
Yeah.
so. Anything else? Anybody have any questions?
Nothing from me.
Thank you.
Great. Appreciate it. Fire department, you guys got anything for us?
We distributed our report and our annual report for '24. That is just a quick snapshot of what the year is. We have a lot more data that we can slice for you any way you'd like. That is just the Reader's Digest of what happened in the township last year. Also to note, recently we had a house fire on Audrey Lane that you should have seen our report on. Just another snapshot. One of the critical things that I want to mention to everybody publicly is that if you hear your smoke detector, call 911. A lot of times you can do yourself more damage than good if you think that, it's just a small fire, I can put it out myself. And unfortunately, this was not the case, and the house is 100% loss. So it's a significant loss of property and contents in an occupied structure, which is why I stressed that first. That volume of fire that we saw, you would be consistent with a vacant structure, or if somebody isn't home or whatever. There's a lot of loss there. So just the PSA there. Any questions for us?
You were
By all
busy
means.
the following day, too.
That's life in a small town.
Yeah.
So
That was fun, huh?
that's the chief's
Oh, okay.
problem.
Oh, I see. I got it.
That's it for us.
Perfect. Thank you much. With that, we'll jump to additional business as a discussion of agenda items for upcoming workshop meetings.
We did go through a lot of this at the last meeting, so we don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to go through additional options. I think we crafted a list, but if anybody has anything to add.
Do you have enough to fill our plates with?
Yep.
Did we, did we discuss the letter? Oh, okay, next,
Mhm.
okay, no, okay. And the process.
Yep.
Okay.
So if we can,
All right.
yeah, we can do announcements.
Yeah, moving on to announcements. Anything you want to cover first, or should I jump into
No,
our
I think
letter?
you can go, 'cause then we, yeah.
Okay. Cool. So the one announcement I have for you all is that you'll notice that Mark Donovan, our illustrious previous chair, is not here right now. He has submitted a letter of resignation to us. He is taking a new job elsewhere, which precludes him from being able to serve on political committees. So he has submitted a letter to us as of today, I believe. As of today. So going forward, we're going to begin interviewing upcoming candidates to cover out the rest of the year. So we'll be holding interviews at our next meeting on the 27th for public interviews. So anyone who is interested can go and submit a resume, presumably. But the information for doing that will be available online tomorrow. Facebook, township page, the usual avenues for that stuff. So if you know anyone who's interested, or if you yourself are interested, please go ahead and submit in there, and we'll get those interviews kicked off.
And just so the minutes are clear, we're not accepting the resignation yet. There's a two-step process under the Second Class Township Code. Because of when it came in, we couldn't handle it this agenda meeting, so it'll be handled on our March 10th agenda meeting.
In fact, if we could reject it and if we could just burn it, that would be, Mark has been just a pleasure. I just have to say, you know, we don't always agree on everything, but everybody is very respectful of each other on this board, and it's a pleasure to work with everybody. Everybody. And Mark is a real class act, so we'll miss him.
Mm-hmm. Any other announcements? Or are we?
Yeah,
Excellent.
just to
Yep.
clarify, that's the workshop meeting that we're gonna hold interviews, right, not our next board meeting?
Correct. Yeah, it'll be our next workshop meeting on February 27th, 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks-ish. Great. With that, is there any public comment on anything that was not already touched on? Anyone like to come up and speak? I know we haven't been here very long. Great. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you much, all.
All right. Good job, Chair and John. I'll talk to you guys later.